Welcome to the Cheating Wife Stories channel. Dominic Ray sat in his home office, reviewing security protocols for his latest client, when he heard the distinct sound of Elena's laughter floating through the walls. It wasn't her usual forced social laugh, the one she used at dinner parties, or when meeting his colleagues. No, this was different. This was the genuine, carefree laugh he hadn't heard from her in years. The sound made him pause. His military-trained instincts, honed through years of combat and security work, detected something off about the situation. He glanced at his watch. 6:30 p.m., 2 hours earlier than his usual return time. Moving silently through the house, he approached their bedroom. The laughter stopped abruptly as his footsteps creaked on the hallway floor. Through the partially open door, he caught a glimpse of Elena scrambling to answer a phone call. "Oh, I have to go now," she said hurriedly. Yes. Goodbye." He pushed the door open. Elena sat on their bed. Her designer outfit remained pristine despite the late hour. Her phone was clutched tightly in her manicured hands. "You're home early," Elena said, her voice carrying a hint of accusation. He studied her face and asked, "Who are you talking to?" "Just a call from the real estate office," she answered. As she stood up and smoothed her skirt, she added, "We were discussing a potential listing." He noticed how she angled her body away from him, subtly shielding her phone screen. "It must have been quite the listing to make you laugh like that," he remarked. "Oh, you know Marina. She always has the funniest stories about her clients." Elena moved toward their en-suite bathroom, her heels clicking against the floor. "I need to freshen up," she declared. "Are you hungry? We could order in." He watched as she disappeared into the bathroom, taking her phone with her. Through the door, he heard the distinct sound of another message notification. Over the next few days, he observed similar patterns. Elena would step outside to take calls, claiming poor reception inside the house. She turned her phone face down whenever he entered the room. Small changes in behavior that his security background wouldn't let him ignore. One evening, as they sat in their living room, Elena brought up the subject of moving. "This house is getting a bit cramped, don't you think?" she said while scrolling through her phone. "I saw this beautiful property in the Willow Grove district. 5 bedrooms, a pool, a wine cellar. Our house has plenty of space for 2 people," he replied, noting how she avoided eye contact. "But think about the future, darling. We could entertain more guests. Plus, the furniture here is getting dated. We need something more sophisticated." He remembered their bank account balance. His security consulting business provided a comfortable living, but nothing close to what Elena seemed to be describing. "And how do you suggest we afford this upgrade?" he asked. "Oh, you worry too much about money," she waved dismissively. "There are always ways." Before he could press further, the doorbell rang. Julian Cruz stood on their porch, his expression grim. His presence at this hour meant something was wrong. They had been friends long enough to notice the signs. "Dominic, got a minute?" Julian asked, his eyes flickering briefly to Elena. "Need to discuss that Harrington background check." Elena rolled her eyes. "I'll leave you boys to your work talk," she said, grabbing her phone and heading upstairs, already dialing someone. In Dominic's office, Julian wasted no time with pleasantries. He pulled out a folder and spread several documents across the desk. "Remember that routine check you asked me to run on the Harrington Corp executives?" Julian's voice was low and measured. "I found something interesting in the financial records." It wasn't about Harrington, but he pushed forward a bank statement. "Look at these transfers." He scanned the document. Large sums of money, regular deposits into an account he didn't recognize, all from one source. Darius Knight Enterprises. That account. Julian pointed to the receiving end. "It's linked to Elena." Dominic's jaw tightened. "How long?" 6 months of transfers, Julian replied. But that wasn't all. Julian pulled out surveillance photos. These were taken at the Emerald Bay Hotel. Different dates, always late at night. The photo showed Elena entering the hotel's private elevator with a well-dressed man. Darius Knight himself. Dominic recognized him from business magazines and charity galas. Each photo timestamp showed times when Alina had claimed to be at late showings or client dinners. "There's more," Julian continued, his voice heavy with concern. "They've booked a cruise. 7 days in a luxury suite. Leaving next week." Dominic's military training kicked in immediately. He pushed down the surge of emotions, determined not to let them overwhelm him. "How did you find this?" he asked. "It started as a coincidence. Darius's name came up in the Harrington investigation. Then I noticed the money trail. I didn't feel right keeping it from you, brother." Dominic stood up, his movements controlled despite the rage building inside him. "I need to verify this myself." "I already thought of that," Julian replied. "Got you covered." Later that night, after Alina had gone to bed, Dominic sat in his office, planning his next move. He announced a business trip to Miami. He watched Alina's reaction carefully during breakfast. "A whole week?" she asked, trying to hide her excitement behind a concerned frown. "That's unusual for you. Big client, big contract," he replied. Studying her face, he noted every nuance. "I'll leave tomorrow morning," he declared. Alina kissed him goodbye the next day, her lips barely touching his cheek. "Be safe, darling. Don't work too hard." Dominic drove away, circling the block, and parked where he could observe their house. 30 minutes later, Alina emerged. She was dressed in an outfit he had never seen before, carrying a shopping bag from a luxury boutique. He followed her to a high-end hotel, watching as she met Darius Knight in the lobby. They disappeared into the elevator together, emerging 2 hours later. Alina's hair was slightly disheveled. Her lipstick was refreshed, but not quite even. Back at home, Dominic accessed their shared computer. The browser history revealed searches for luxury cruises, 5-star hotels, and high-end real estate listings. In their closet, hidden behind her winter coats, he found a new designer bag worth more than 3 months of his income. The evidence mounted, each discovery fueling his growing rage. But he remained calm, his military training taking over. This wasn't a time for emotional reactions. It required strategy, planning, and most importantly, patience. He called Julian. "I need you to dig deeper. Everything you can find on Darius Knight. Every account, transaction, skeleton in his closet." "Already on it," Julian replied. "And now, whatever you're planning, I've got your back." "I know, brother. I know." The next few days revealed more than Dominic had imagined. Julian's investigation uncovered a web of lies and deception. The cruise wasn't just a vacation. It was meant to be Alina's escape. First-class tickets to Europe were booked for after their return. New bank accounts had been opened in her name in Switzerland. The pieces fell into place, forming a picture that made Dominic's blood run cold. His wife wasn't just having an affair. She was planning to leave him, taking everything she could. But fate had different plans. Julian's urgent call came during a client meeting. "Dominic, get somewhere safe now," he commanded. "What's wrong?" Dominic asked. "Got word from my contact in the underground. Someone put a hit out on you. A professional job is scheduled for tonight." Dominic's hand tightened on his phone. "Location?" he demanded. "The hit's planned for tonight. They know your routine. You work late on Thursdays." "The meeting location?" he pressed. Julian paused. "Emerald Bay Hotel," he said. Dominic shut down his computer with precise movements. "Send me everything you have on this hitman," he ordered. "And keep digging. I want to know who else is involved." "Already on it," Julian replied. "Maybe we should call in some backup." "The police?" "No, not yet. This follows my plan," Dominic said coldly. Dominic drove home through back roads, his military training kicking in as he checked for tails. His mind raced through scenarios, planning, calculating. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was war. He prepared his house meticulously, security cameras repositioned, Furniture subtly moved to create choke points, lights adjusted to create blind spots. The garage became his interrogation room, tools laid out. The hitman arrived at 9:47 p.m., picking the back door lock with professional skill. Dominic watched through his security feed as the man moved through the house, a silenced pistol held ready. Dominic waited in the darkness of his study, controlling his breathing. The hitman's footsteps were nearly silent. Nearly. 1 step. 2 steps. Then the attack was swift and brutal. Dominic exploded from the shadows, his elbow connecting with the hitman's throat before the man could raise his weapon. They crashed into the hallway. The hitman recovered quickly, showing his professional training. A knife appeared in the hitman's hand, slashing and striking. Dominic blocked and countered, his combat experience evident in every move. The fight was intense but brief. Within minutes, the hitman lay face down, and Dominic had him zip-tied in the garage. Under harsh fluorescent lights, the interrogation began. "Who hired you?" Dominic asked, his voice measured and controlled. The hitman remained silent. Dominic applied pressure to specific points using techniques he'd learned in special operations. "Let's try again. Who hired you?" 20 minutes later, the hitman broke. He revealed everything. The meeting with Darius Knight, the payment details, and the planned alibi. Most importantly, he had recorded conversations on his burner phone. Dominic played the recordings, his face hardening as he listened to Elena's voice. "This needs to be done. Darius, I can't live like this anymore. Don't worry, my love. Once he is gone, we can be together forever and enjoy our lives. Make it quick and make it clean." The hitman watched as Dominic's expression grew darker, more dangerous. "Look, I can help you. Give me names, dates, everything." "Yes," the hitman replied in a flat tone. "You will, because right now, I'm your only chance at avoiding a maximum sentence." Hours later, Dominic sat in the rusty anchor. The weight of betrayal was heavy on his shoulders. Celeste Monroe watched him from behind the bar. "Want to talk about it?" she urged. Dominic looked up, meeting her understanding gaze. "You could say that. Want to talk about it?" He studied her for a moment, noticing something in her eyes that spoke of personal experience with darkness. "My wife tried to have me killed today," he stated simply. Celeste didn't flinch. Instead, she pulled up a bar stool. "Tell me," she urged. And so he did. He told her everything. The affair, the plans, the hitman. Celeste listened, occasionally nodding, her eyes showing recognition of the pain he described. "I've been where you are," she finally said. "Different situation, same betrayal. Want my advice?" Dominic nodded. "Don't let anger cloud your judgment. You won't get revenge. Fine. But serve it cold. Use that military brain of yours. Make them suffer, but do it smart. I'm going to destroy them," Dominic declared, his voice filled with absolute conviction. "Good," Celeste replied, her eyes hard. "Just remember, the best revenge isn't just about hurting them. It's about taking everything they value. Pride, status, security. Take it all." Dominic looked at her with new respect. "You sound like you speak from experience. Let's just say my ex learned the hard way that appearances can be deceiving," she said with a bitter smile. "So, what's your plan?" "They're taking a cruise next week. A love boat vacation. Perhaps, seems like the perfect place for a reunion. Just be careful. Men like Darius Knight don't play fair." "Neither do I. Not anymore," Dominic declared. The marina's salty air filled Dominic's lungs as he inspected the motorboat. Small, fast, and purchased under a false name. Perfect for their needs. Julian stood beside him, reviewing satellite maps of the cruise ship's route on his tablet. "She's a beauty," Julian commented. He patted the boat's hull. "How'd you find her?" "Contact from my contractor days. No questions asked. Cash only," he replied. Dominic checked the fuel capacity and range. More than enough. The cruise ship makes 3 stops. We can intercept at any point, Julian noted. Dominic nodded, his mind already mapping contingencies. What about the captain? He asked. Captain Navarro, 20 years of experience, a clean record, and known for running a tight ship. My sources say he's as straight as an arrow, but with a strong sense of justice. Good. He'll be crucial for this to work, Dominic said as he pulled out his satellite phone. Time to make contact. The call to Captain Navarro was carefully worded. Dominic presented the evidence, the murder plot, the recordings, the hitman's confession. The captain listened in silence. Mr. Reyes, Captain Navarro finally spoke. What exactly are you planning? Justice, Captain. Nothing more, nothing less, Dominic replied steadily. No passengers or crew will be harmed. You have my word. A long pause followed. Send me the evidence, all of it. I'll review it and contact you tomorrow. 24 hours later, Captain Navarro called back. I'm in, but on one condition. Everything stays legal and controlled. Understood, Captain. I'll send you the details through secure channels. Back at his house, Dominic and Julian finalized their plans. A map spread across the dining room table. Satellite images of the cruise ship's route were marked with potential intercept points. Primary approach here. Dominic pointed to a port location. Back up here and here. If something goes wrong, we extract through these routes. Julian studied the plans. You're really going to confront them in front of everyone. Maximum impact. They wanted to humiliate me with a quick, quiet death. I want them to feel the weight of their actions in front of witnesses, Dominic said, his eyes hard. And after, he added, after they face justice, real justice that destroys reputations, bank accounts, and futures. Julian nodded slowly. I've got my network ready. The moment you give the signal, every media outlet in the country hits the full story. Business fraud, murder plot, everything. Good, Dominic said, rolling up the maps. They thought I was weak, easily disposed of. Time to show them how wrong they were. Later that evening, Dominic returned to the Rusty Anchor, where Celeste was waiting. You look like a man on a mission, she said as she served him his usual whiskey. Dominic took a sip. Everything's ready. Are you sure about this? Once you start, there's no going back. He met her gaze. They crossed the line when they tried to have me killed. Celeste nodded, her eyes full of understanding. Just remember what I said. Keep your head clear. Revenge is best served with a steady hand. Dominic finished his drink. Thank you, Celeste, for everything. Just be careful out there. Now, tomorrow, he would begin dismantling the lives of those who betrayed him. His military strategist side had planned for every contingency, while the wounded husband in him demanded justice. They wanted him dead and buried. Instead, they'd awakened something far more dangerous, a man with nothing left to lose and the skills to make them pay. The luxury cruise ship gleamed under the afternoon sun, its passengers enjoying their third day at sea. On the main deck, Alina leaned against the railing, a champagne flute in hand, while Darius massaged her shoulders. Just think, she purred, in a few days, we'll be free to do this whenever we want. Darius kissed her neck. No more sneaking around. No more. Suddenly, the ship's speakers crackled to life, interrupting their moment. Captain Navarro's voice resonated across the deck. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our surprise guest speaker for today's special event. Alina's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the deck. Darius's hands froze on her shoulders. Other passengers turned toward the main stage area, curious about the announcement. That's impossible, Alina whispered, her face draining of color. He can't be here. Darius grabbed her arm. Stay calm. It must be someone else. But when Dominic stepped onto the stage, his presence commanded attention. He wore a crisp black suit, his military bearing evident in his posture. His eyes found Alina in the crowd, and she shrank back against Darius. Thank you, Captain Navarro, Dominic began. Today, I'm here to share a story about betrayal, murder, and justice. Captain Navarro stood beside him, holding a remote control. With a nod from Dominic, he pressed play. The ship's speakers projected a familiar conversation. "This needs to be done. Darius, I can't live like this anymore. Don't worry, my love. Once he is gone, we can be together forever and enjoy our lives. Make it quick, and make it clean." Elena's recorded voice echoed across the deck. Passengers turned to stare, recognition dawning on their faces. Darius's voice followed. "Don't worry, darling. By the time you are back from the cruise, he will be in grave." This caused murmurs to ripple through the crowd. An elderly woman gasped, clutching her pearls. For those who didn't know him, Dominic continued steadily. "I'm the husband these conspirators tried to have killed last week." The crowd's murmurs grew louder. A man in a business suit pulled his wife away from where Elena and Darius stood, as if their presence was toxic. "But perhaps you'd like to hear more." Dominic gestured to the screen behind him, where documents began to appear. "Mr. Knight, your business associates might be interested in these financial records," he said. Darius lunged forward, pushing through the crowd. "Turn that off. You have no right." "No right? Like you had no right to plot my murder." Dominic retorted, his laugh void of humor. "Please, Mr. Knight, enlighten us all about rights." Security guards moved to block Darius's path to the stage. On the screen, document after document revealed fraudulent transactions, fake accounts, and illegal dealings. "You're ruining everything." Elena screamed, mascara running down her cheeks. "No, Elena. You did that yourself when you decided my life was worth less than your ambitions." Dominic's voice cut through her hysteria. Darius made another attempt to reach the stage, but this time Dominic met him halfway. Darius threw a wild punch, which Dominic blocked. In one fluid motion, Dominic countered with a strike that sent Darius sprawling on the deck. "Mr. Knight, I warn you. I fight back. Unlike your hitman, I don't back down." A woman in the crowd raised her phone, recording everything. More passengers followed suit, their devices capturing the unfolding drama. Dominic addressed the crowd. "These people plotted a murder while planning their luxury vacation. They hired a professional killer while booking spa treatments, and scheduled my death between wine tastings and shore excursions." Elena tried to flee, but Captain Navarro's security team blocked her path. "This isn't fair," she wailed. "Fair? Was it fair to plan my murder? To celebrate my planned death with champagne and caviar?" Dominic's voice turned harsh. The evidence continued to play on the screen. Bank statements, recorded conversations, the hitman's confession. Each revelation drawing more gasps and expressions of disgust from the passengers. Mr. Knight's business partners might be interested to know that their investments funded not just this cruise, but also the down payment for my assassination. Dominic pointed to specific documents. Darius struggled to his feet, his designer suit disheveled. "I'll sue you for this," he shouted. "You will what?" "Call your lawyers. The same ones who helped you secure billions." Dominic cut him off. "They're probably busy right now, dealing with the federal investigation I triggered this morning." A businesswoman in the crowd stepped forward. "I've invested with Knight Enterprises. Are you saying our money was used to fund illegal activities?" Dominic finished for her. "The documentation is there. Feel free to contact the SEC. They received copies of everything an hour ago." The crowd's mood turned ugly. Former admirers of Darius's wealth and status now looked at him with contempt. Women who had envied Elena's lifestyle moved away from her, whispering among themselves. "You can't prove anything." Darius tried one last time. Dominic smiled coldly. "Your hitman disagreed. He was quite cooperative after I convinced him to rethink his career choices." The sunset marked a very different cruise than the one Elena and Darius had planned. Their fellow passengers treated them like pariahs, moving away when they entered rooms, falling silent as they passed. As Dominic watched them retreat to their cabin under security escort, he felt no satisfaction, only cold determination. This was just the beginning of their punishment. The real pain would come from watching their carefully constructed world crumble piece by piece. Captain Navarro had Elena and Darius confined to their luxury suite, now transformed into an opulent prison. 2 security guards stood outside the door while cameras monitored their movements. Inside the suite, Elena paced frantically. "This can't be happening. He was supposed to be dead," she cried. Darius snapped, his usually smooth demeanor cracking. "Shut up." Then, a set of speakers activated. "Good evening, Elena." Dominic's voice filled the room. "Enjoying your cruise?" Elena screamed, throwing a crystal vase at the speakers, which shattered against the wall. Now, Dominic continued, "that's no way to treat the ship's property. Destruction seems to be your specialty, though," he added sarcastically. Darius shouted at the ceiling. "Stop this. You've had your fun. Now it's time to pay." Dominic's tone turned sharp. He continued, "Tell me, Darius, did you enjoy choosing my hitman like you choose your wines?" Throughout the day, Dominic's voice returned at random intervals, sometimes with questions, sometimes with revelations about their past actions. Each message was calculated to strip away their confidence. "Remember our anniversary dinner last month?" Dominic's voice echoed. "Elena, when you said you had a headache and came home early, the hotel security cameras caught you meeting Darius in the presidential suite 30 minutes later." Elena curled up on the bed, covering her ears, but Dominic's voice continued relentlessly. "Did you know, Darius, that your business partner James has been cooperating with the SEC? He had a lot to say about those offshore accounts." Darius threw his phone against the wall in frustration. "Make it stop." But it didn't stop. Dominic's after-hours psychological warfare continued. He played their recorded conversations at random times, letting other passengers hear their callous planning through the ship's PA system. In the ship's security office, Captain Navarro watched the surveillance feeds. "You're breaking them," he observed. He prepared another message. "They're doing this to themselves. I'm just holding up a mirror." Captain Navarro studied him. "I've seen revenge before, but this is something else." Dominic replied, "This isn't revenge. This is justice." On the other side of the ship, Julian worked with his network of contacts, feeding media outlets a steady stream of information about Darius's business fraud and the murder plot. By evening, the story had gone viral. Dominic received a text from Celeste. "Just saw the news. You okay?" "Better than them," he replied. Back in the suite, Elena and Darius's relationship began to crack under pressure. "This is your fault." Elena screamed at Darius. "Your hitman failed." Darius retorted, "My fault." Elena shot back. Darius grabbed her arms. "Who wanted me dead in the first place? Who couldn't wait to get their hands on my money?" Their argument was interrupted by Dominic's calm voice. "Actions have consequences. It's time you learn that." Later that night, Dominic arranged a mock trial in the ship's main theater, with passengers serving as jury members and Captain Navarro presiding as judge. The evidence was presented. Financial records, surveillance photos, recorded conversations, the hitman's sworn statement. Elena and Darius were brought in under guard, looking disheveled, their designer clothes wrinkled, their composure shattered. "This isn't legal," Darius protested weakly. "Consider it a preview," Dominic replied. The mock jury's verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Though not legally binding, the public condemnation hit harder than any legal punishment. As they were led back to their suite, Dominic's voice followed them. "How does it feel to be judged by your peers? To have your true nature exposed?" That night, Elena tried to send a message to her family, begging for help. The reply came through the speakers in Dominic's voice. "We've seen the evidence, Elena. No one's coming to save you." Darius attempted to contact his lawyers, but Dominic had been thorough. His legal team had abandoned him, distancing themselves from the scandal. "Your empire is falling, Mr. Knight," Dominic informed him. "Check the stock market." Darius rushed to the cabin television, only to find news reports of his company's plummeting stock prices and mass resignations of board members. "Stop, Elena," he whimpered. "Please, Dominic, we'll give you anything." Elena pleaded. "Anything." Dominic's voice held no mercy. "Can you give me back my trust, my marriage, the life you tried to take?" The psychological torture continued, measured and relentless. Dominic used their own words against them, their actions as weapons. He didn't need physical violence. Their guilty consciences did the work for him. As the cruise ship approached its final port, Dominic's plan entered its final phase. Captain Navarro coordinated with local authorities, ensuring a smooth transfer of custody. In their suite, Elena and Darius had stopped talking to each other. The strain of constant surveillance and psychological pressure had shattered their relationship. "The police are waiting," Dominic announced. Along with the media, Darius slumped in his chair. "You've destroyed everything." "No, you did that yourselves. I just exposed the truth." The truth had indeed spread far. Julian's network had ensured that the story reached national media, with news helicopters circling the ship, capturing footage of the disgraced couple's impending arrest. "Your stocks are worthless, Mr. Reyes. Your board has resigned. Your investors are suing," Dominic said. "Save it for the judge," he replied. Captain Navarro led the police into the suite. "Elena Reyes and Darius Knight, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and various financial crimes." As they were led out in handcuffs, fellow passengers recorded their walk of shame. The once proud couple shuffled past, heads down, avoiding the accusing stares. Outside, reporters shouted questions. "Mrs. Reyes, why did you plot to kill your husband?" One asked. "Mr. Knight, what happened to the investor funds? Did you really plan the murder during this cruise?" Another asked. Neither answered. They couldn't. Dominic had broken them completely. In the ship's control room, Captain Navarro turned to Dominic. "That's the end of it, for now." Dominic watched through the window as police cars drove away with his wife and her lover. The legal system would handle the rest. "You're a dangerous man, Mr. Reyes, only to those who betray me," said Captain Navarro. Julian waited in a car nearby, monitoring police frequencies. They were being processed now. "No bail, flight risk," he noted. Dominic looked at his phone as news alerts kept coming in about Darius's business empire crumbling. "How's the media coverage?" he asked. "Brutal. They're being crucified in the press. Your wife's family has publicly disowned her, and Darius's business partners are scrambling to cooperate with investigators," Julian reported. Dominic nodded in satisfaction. "They wanted to kill me and live a life of luxury. Now they'll live in disgrace, watching their world burn." Captain Navarro arranged for Dominic to leave the ship quietly, away from the media frenzy. As he said goodbye, the captain gripped Dominic's hand firmly. "I've seen many things at sea, but nothing like this. You didn't just defeat them, you destroyed them." Dominic replied, "I just made sure they couldn't escape the consequences." As Dominic drove away from the port, he received one last message from Celeste. "Saw the news. They got what they deserved. Come by the bar when you're back for a drink on me." The sun had set on the cruise ship, but for Elena and Darius, a different kind of darkness was just beginning. They faced years in prison, financial ruin, and social exile. Their dreams of a luxurious life together had turned into a nightmare of their own making. Dominic had kept his promise. He had destroyed them completely, not with violence, but with truth. They had underestimated him, seeing him as an obstacle to be removed. Instead, he had become their worst nightmare, a ruthless force of justice who had stripped away everything they valued. Their betrayal had awakened something dark in him, something that wouldn't rest until they had paid for their crimes. Dominic unlocked his front door, the house silent and different now. The space that once held Elena's presence felt cleaner, lighter without her deception poisoning the air. He walked through each room, noting items that needed to be removed. Her vanity table, her collection of designer shoes, the painting she insisted on hanging. His phone buzzed with a message from Julian. News outlets are still running the story. Knight Enterprises stock dropped another 30% today. Good, Dominic replied. Any word from the prosecution? They're building an airtight case between the hitman's testimony and those recordings. Elena and Darius aren't seeing daylight for a long time. Dominic moved to his office, powering up his laptop. Multiple emails awaited. Clients concerned about their security contracts. Business partners seeking clarification. He'd need to rebuild parts of his life, but this time on his own terms. The doorbell rang. Julian stood outside, holding a stack of papers. Found something you need to see, Julian said, spreading documents across Dominic's desk. Elena and Darius didn't just drain your joint account. They were planning to liquidate your business assets too. Dominic studied the paperwork, his jaw tightening. They had forged paperwork with my signature, a professional job that would have looked legitimate after your unfortunate accident. Julian pulled out more documents. But I've got our legal team working on recovering everything. Plus, with the criminal charges, we can sue them for damages. How much did they take? Dominic asked. About 60% of your liquid assets. But here's the thing. We can prove malicious intent. With punitive damages, we could take everything they have left. Dominic nodded, his expression hard. Do it. They wanted my money. Let's take all of theirs. Julian made some calls, setting their legal team in motion. As he worked, Dominic noticed his friend watching him with concern. What's on your mind, Julian? You holding up okay with all this? Dominic's voice was steely. I'm not broken. They tried to destroy me. Instead, I destroyed them. Now I rebuild. Julian then pulled out another folder. Remember that security merger we discussed last year? The timing might be good now. Dominic examined the proposal. Expanding into corporate investigations, with my military background and your PI work, we could own that market in 6 months. The idea appealed to Dominic's strategic mind. Draft a business plan. We'll need startup capital. Already done, Julian grinned. I had some time while watching Elena and Darius squirm on that cruise. The work helped Dominic focus on the future rather than on betrayal. He had destroyed his betrayers, yes, but now he would rise stronger than before. Later that evening, Dominic headed to the Rusty Anchor. Celeste looked up as he entered, genuine concern on her face. Heard you visited Elena today. How are you really doing? Dominic replied, taking inventory, planning next steps. The house feels different in a clean way, like a wound that's finally lanced. Celeste nodded. I remember that feeling. After my ex, I finally felt I could breathe again. You never told me what happened with him, Dominic said. Another time. Tonight's about you healing, she said, refilling his glass. You know, this bar is actually mine now, she added. I bought it last month. You never mentioned that. Wanted to make sure it went through first. Celeste smiled. No more working for others. We all rebuild, Dominic. It's how we rebuild that matters. Their conversation flowed naturally, touching on business, future plans, and shared experiences. Dominic found himself relaxing, appreciating Celeste's straightforward nature and quiet strength. You should take some time, she suggested. Don't hide. Regroup and plan your next move carefully. Dominic considered her words. My security consulting business needs restructuring anyway. Julian was already planning something new. Good. Focus on that. Success is the best revenge, Dominic stated. As he drove home, he realized that the anger fueling him had transformed into determination. He built something stronger from the ashes of betrayal. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. Dominic threw himself into training, spending hours at the gym honing his body and mind. He studied new security systems, expanded his knowledge of corporate espionage, and prepared for the next phase of his career. Julian proved invaluable. handling the legal proceedings while focusing on their new business venture, Rise Cruz Security Solutions. "We've got more clients than we can handle," Julian reported during one of their planning sessions. "Major corporations worried about industrial espionage. They like your military background. Set up the meetings. We'll show them what real security looks like," Dominic added. In the following weeks, rapid changes occurred. Dominic sold the house, not wanting to keep any reminders of his life with Elena. He and Celeste found a new place together, a fresh start for both of them. Their security firm flourished, gaining a reputation for thoroughness and discretion. Dominic and Julian's military backgrounds attracted high-profile clients, and their experience with corporate betrayal gave them unique insight into potential threats. "We've got more clients than we can handle," Julian reported during a board meeting. "We might need to expand sooner than planned." Dominic nodded, reviewing the projections. "Start recruiting. Former military personnel preferred. We'll train them our way." The business became more than just work. It became a mission to protect others from betrayal. Dominic's experience had taught him valuable lessons about trust and security. One evening, as Dominic and Celeste packed for their Caribbean trip, Celeste noticed him looking thoughtful. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked. "Just thinking about how things change. A year ago, I thought my life was set. Now I'm stronger, wiser," he replied. Celeste touched his arm. "And not alone." Dominic pulled her close. "No, definitely not alone." They left for their vacation the next day, leaving Julian in charge of the firm. The Caribbean sun helped wash away the last traces of bitterness, though Dominic knew he'd never forget the lessons learned. "You know," Celeste said one evening on their hotel balcony, "some people would have been broken by what you went through. I chose to be strengthened instead." Dominic watched the sunset. "They thought they could destroy me. Instead, they made me more dangerous, to my enemies, to anyone who betrays trust." He turned to her. "I protect what matters now. No compromise." Their relationship deepened during the trip, built on mutual understanding and shared strength. Back home, they started their new business venture together, a high-end security consulting firm specializing in personal and corporate protection. Dominic kept tabs on Elena and Darius through Julian's contacts. They served their sentences in separate federal prisons, their appeals denied, their futures destroyed by their own actions. "Karma," Julian commented during one update. "They planned to kill you. Instead, they killed their own futures." Dominic nodded, satisfaction in his eyes. They chose their path. Now they live with the consequences. Life moved forward. Dominic and Celeste's relationship grew stronger. Their business prospered, and their partnership with Julian expanded into new territories. They built something meaningful from the ashes of betrayal. 5 years to the day after the verdict, Dominic stood in his new office, looking out over the city. He had transformed from a trusting husband into someone harder, stronger, and more dangerous. The man who once ignored red flags now spotted them instantly. The man who once gave second chances now dealt in consequences. Celeste entered, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "Thinking deep thoughts?" she asked. "Thinking about change, about building something unbreakable," he replied. "Nothing's unbreakable, Dominic, but some things are strong enough to survive any storm," she said. He kissed her, knowing she understood. They had both been forged in the fire of betrayal, emerging stronger, more resilient. The lessons learned would never be forgotten. The strength gained never wasted. The past was behind them, but its lessons remained. Trust must be earned, loyalty must be absolute, and betrayal must be met with unwavering justice. Dominic had learned these truths the hard way, and would spend the rest of his life ensuring that others learned them too, one way or another. 5 years later, Rise Cruz Security Solutions occupied the top 3 floors of a downtown high-rise. Its sleek offices attested to 5 years of explosive growth. Dominic sat in his executive office, reviewing the latest acquisition reports, when Julian knocked on his door. "Got a minute?" Julian asked, carrying a thick folder. "Just got some interesting intel from our contacts in the federal prison system," he said. Dominic looked up from his desk, his face showing the same sharp focus that had helped build their empire. "Elena or Darius?" Julian inquired. "Both, actually," Dominic replied. Julian spread several documents across Dominic's desk. Darius attempted suicide again last week, his third attempt this year. They've got him under constant watch now. His former business partners have stripped the last of his hidden assets. He has nothing left. And Elena? Still writing letters to her family. Still getting no response. Julian added. Julian pulled out a prison report. She's been moved to medium security after good behavior, but she's not the same woman anymore. Prison changed her. The guards say she spends most of her time alone, avoiding other inmates. Dominic absorbed the information without emotion. The years had hardened his resolve rather than softened it. "Any attempts to contact me?" Julian asked. "Monthly letters, like clockwork. All returned unopened, as per your instructions." Julian sat down across from his friend and business partner. "Speaking of correspondence, Captain Navarro sent an invitation. He's retiring next month and wants us at his farewell party." A slight smile crossed Dominic's face. "The good captain. Send him something appropriate from the company. And make sure he knows that security consulting position we discussed is still open." The conversation was interrupted by Dominic's intercom. "Mr. Rice, Ms. Monroe is here for your lunch meeting." Celeste entered, her business attire reflecting her new role as CEO of Duncan Security Services. The high-end personal protection firm she built from her original bar ownership had not softened her edge. "Stan, are you staying for lunch?" she asked with a warm smile. "Can't today. I'm meeting with that tech company about their corporate espionage problem," he replied, gathering his documents. "You, too, enjoy," she added. "Oh, and Dominic, that situation in Sewell needs your attention before tomorrow." After Stan left, Celeste took his place across from Dominic. "Sewell," Dominic echoed. "It was an attempted hostile takeover of one of our client companies. They tried using some of Darius's old tactics. They'll learn the same lesson I did." Celeste nodded, understanding perfectly. Their marriage worked because they shared the same viewpoint on betrayal and consequences. Speaking of lessons, that former employee who tried to steal our client list just got sentenced. 3 years plus fines. Celeste noted. "Good. People need to understand that actions have consequences." Dominic said. They had married 3 years ago in a private ceremony, with only Julian and a few trusted friends present. Their honeymoon had doubled as a business trip, establishing new security contracts across Europe. Both understood that their strength came from shared experiences and mutual respect. "Heard anything from the Rusty Anchor lately?" Dominic asked as they prepared to leave for lunch. Celeste replied. "It was sold last year to a good manager, but I still drop by occasionally to make sure it's running right. That's where we first really talked, you know." Dominic said. "When you were planning your revenge, you gave me good advice that night." "And you still do," she smiled. "But your eyes still hold that same steel," Dominic observed. "That's why our clients trust us to handle their security. We understand betrayal all too well," she said. Later that afternoon, Dominic visited their training facility outside the city, where former military personnel underwent rigorous programs, learning not just physical security, but how to spot and prevent betrayal in all its forms. Dominic occasionally taught classes himself, using his real-world experience as an example. "Remember," he told a group of trainees, "betrayal doesn't just happen. There are always signs. Your job is to spot them before they become threats." The facility had become famous in security circles for its comprehensive approach. They didn't just teach protection, they taught prevention. Dominic's experience had shown him that physical security was only part of the equation. Julian managed their investigation division, his PI skills now supported by a network of specialists and cutting-edge technology. They had solved cases that had baffled law enforcement, earned contracts with major corporations, and built a reputation for thoroughness that bordered on legendary. Latest tech company case solved, Julian reported during their evening briefing. The CFO was selling secrets to competitors. We had it all documented and ready for prosecution before they even knew there was a problem. Clean. Absolutely clean. Dominic confirmed. He added, he'll be joining Elena in prison. Their reputation for handling corporate betrayal had made them the go-to firm for companies facing internal threats. Dominic's personal experience had given them unique insight into how betrayers think and operate. At home that evening, Dominic and Celeste relaxed in their penthouse apartment. The view of the city reminded them how far they'd come from their days at the Rusty Anchor. Later, Celeste mentioned over dinner, "Remember my ex, the abusive one you destroyed? He tried starting over in Arizona, failed, tried Vegas, failed again. Now he's working as a janitor at a small-town high school. Karma has a long memory. So do we." Dominic replied, understanding completely. Their home reflected their shared philosophy. Elegant yet secure, beautiful yet practical, with every detail attended to, every security measure in place. Actions have consequences, Dominic reiterated. Betrayal, once attempted, must be met with absolute consequences. These principles guided both their personal lives and their business operations. 5 years after their confrontation on a cruise ship, Dominic and Celeste's story had become something of a legend. It was not just about revenge, but about turning that experience into something powerful and positive. Got an interesting request, Julian mentioned during their weekly strategy meeting. A university wants you to give a lecture on corporate security and betrayal prevention. A prestigious business school. Might be useful. Dominic considered it. Could be. Many future executives could benefit from understanding consequences. Their influence had extended beyond just security. They had become experts in human nature, particularly in identifying and preventing betrayal. One afternoon, Dominic received an unexpected letter from Captain Navarro, now retired but still connected. He wrote, "Darius Knight had another breakdown in prison. He keeps talking about how he used to be somebody. Now he's nothing. Thought you'd like to know your revenge is still working, even after all these years." Dominic shared the letter with Celeste that evening. She understood its significance, not just the confirmation of Darius's destruction, but the lasting impact of consequences. Some lessons stay learned, she commented, her own experiences with revenge coloring her words. Their marriage had grown stronger over the years, built on a foundation of absolute trust and shared understanding. They had both survived betrayal, dealt out justice, and built something stronger from the experience. Their security empire stood as a warning to those who would betray trust, a reminder that consequences are real and absolute. But it also stood as a beacon of hope, showing that survival was possible and that strength could be found in the darkest moments. Dominic and Celeste had turned personal pain into professional purpose, private revenge into public protection. 5 years later, they stood stronger than ever, their bond unbreakable, their mission clear. They would continue to protect, to prevent, and to stand guard against betrayal and all its forms. The lessons they'd learned would never be forgotten, and the strength they'd gained would never be wasted. Their story was not just about revenge anymore. It was about transformation, about turning betrayal's poison into power, about building something unbreakable from broken trust. And they would continue their mission, protecting others from the pain they had overcome. As long as they could, the city lights flickered below, a reminder of all the lives they now touched, all the betrayals they prevented, all the trust they protected. They had built something remarkable from revenge's ashes, and they would ensure its legacy continued, a testament to the power of consequences and the strength found in survival.